the authorization of a state-operated gambling at the facility located in the town of Tiverton. Senator Goodwin, please come forward and provide some initial testimony.
You would place on the ballot in this coming election, 2016, a question of whether or not VLTs and table games shall be permitted in Tiverton at a location identified by Twin River. It would set out the terms for which the question must pass both statewide and must pass in the town of Tiverton. The questions in the town of Tiverton would be separate. It would also, it's not in the actual legislation, but I see that there are several individuals representing Twin River, but I think that they will testify after me, Mr. Chairman, that they will invest an approximate $75 million into a facility in the town of Tiverton. Some of just the highlights. The bill contains that it will provide for a minimum of $3 million guaranteed to the town of Tiverton if it's so approved, both statewide and locally. It also projects that combined with the $3 million, an estimated further $1 million would be generated from taxes and food, beverage, and hotels. The town must also be made part of the master contract that was established a number of years ago. It would also allow, like we do in Lincoln, the facility to remain open for 24 hours. The legislation also contains, Mr. Chairman, I know an item that was extremely important to you, and that would be that the facility may not open until the roundabout presently planned for at the facility entrance with DOT at that entrance. And then essentially this legislation is put forward because you know how much we rely on the gaming revenue generated from those facilities. So, Mr. Chairman, that's a general outline.
Thank you very much, Senator Goodwin. Any questions of the sponsor? Senator Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Goodwin, we've gotten these questions before, both for Lincoln and for Newport in the past. So my question is, do these, as the way the questions are proposed to be put out on the ballot, similar in nature to those questions that we've already seen, both for Lincoln and for Newport?
Yes, Senator. It's my understanding it will.
Any other questions of the sponsor? Senator Pashado.
So the question will be posed of the Tiverton residents first, or also
no, together
statewide?
At the same election, but it would have to pass statewide, and it would also have to pass in the town of Tiverton. Say, case in point, that the town of Tiverton rejects it there, but it passes statewide, it would not be allowed to operate.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Senator Goodwin. We have before us a procedural aspect. The original bill was 2081, but there was an amendment made to that particular bill, so I'd like to indefinitely postpone Senate Bill 2081. We have a motion to that effect. Do we have a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. And properly bring before us the Senate Bill S2081, Substitute A. Motion to that effect. We have a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Just to make reference that the substitute A on page 21, lines 1 through 6, adds a new section 6, which provides that the question shall an act be approved, which would authorize a facility owned by Twin River Tiverton LLC, located in the town of Tiverton, at the intersection of William S. Canning Boulevard and Stafford Road, to be licensed as a pari-mutuel facility and offer state-operated video lottery games and state-operated casino games, such as table games. appears on the first referendum question on the state and local Tiverton ballot. Any other sections or references are renumbered accordingly. Our first witness is from Twin River, John Taylor. And I believe he's going to be with Craig Eaton, so both gentlemen, could you come forward and provide your testimony?
Thank you. Is it on? Now it's on. So thank you, Chairman Felag, members of the Special Legislation Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on legislation Senate Bill 2081 Sub A in support of the proposed Tiverton Casino. My name is John Taylor, and I'm the chairman of the board of directors of Twin River Worldwide Holdings, the parent company of Twin River Management Group, owners of Twin River Casino in Newport Grandin, Rhode Island, the Hard Rock Casino in Biloxi, Mississippi, and Arapahoe Park in Aurora, Colorado. Joining me today is Craig Eaton, our Senior Vice President and General Counsel. Known as the Tiverton Casino Bill, this legislation provides the vehicle for a state and local referendum, the latest and probably most important piece of legislation we have ever introduced in our strategy to deal with increased competition in the Northeast. If approved, it will allow voters to weigh in on a simple but important question: do you favor a casino in Tiverton? If the answer is yes, Newport Grand will close once a new casino is built, the soonest being in mid-2018. As has been the case with past gaming issues, the question must pass statewide as well as within the town. As a reminder, in November of last year, the Tiverton Town Council passed a resolution requesting the General Assembly to place this measure on the ballot. To fully understand the breadth and content of this legislation, it might be helpful to review how we arrived here today. Last July, we acquired Newport Grand, believing that we were the best company to own and operate that casino, even in the face of some potential tough competition on the horizon in Massachusetts. We understood how important the future of Newport Grand was to the state, and were excited about the advantages of owning two gaming venues in the same market, a claim no other casino management company in the region can make. We still are. There are significant synergies that exist between Newport Grand and Twin River with respect to technical integrations, cost efficiencies, and most importantly, marketing approach and promotional dollars, all of which inure to the benefit of our customers. But clearly, the property is not without its challenges. Lack of proximity to major highways, distance from a sizable potential market, and lack of full gaming options are three pretty significant ones. Even before we closed on the property, we began to consider the possibility of moving the license to a community better positioned to protect state revenues, and our search brought us to the town of Tiverton. Our conversations with the town ensued, and it took place in residents' homes, backyards, community centers, and area restaurants. We participated in roughly 40 meetings in all, including some larger public hearings and 3 design charrettes, where immediate feedback from the community on what a casino might look like if approved was provided via handheld devices. In speaking with Tiverton residents, we learned that they really wanted to understand the specifics of a potential casino in their community, and they wanted certain assurances that the relationship between the town, the town and the state would be predictable going forward. For that reason, the legislation goes into great detail about the unique relationship among the state, Twin River, and hopefully the town of Tiverton. It captures commitments we believe are necessary with respect to road improvements, the types of gaming, and financial contributions. Importantly, it assures Tiverton that a minimum of $3 million annually from gaming revenue will be there for the town's fiscal planning purposes. We think that it's reasonable that the town would like the predictability of a minimum payment given the highly uncertain gaming landscape in the region. As you now know, if gaming revenue to the town should fall below $3 million in any given fiscal year, we're asking our partner, the state, to make up the possible shortfall. We think that's reasonable given our acquisition of Newport Grand and the initial investment of approximately $75 million we will make to develop and construct the casino and adjoining hotel. When you consider the significant increase in revenue the state can expect from a casino in Tiverton, more on that in a moment, we believe its participation is justified. Another critical element of the program is that the town shares in 1% of table game revenues, a segment which is growing in popularity. To this end, both Twin River and the state of Rhode Island will each reduce by 0.5 percentage point the revenue it garners from table games, effective when the casino in Tiverton opens. A safety net for Tiverton is warranted given the tremendous uncertainty about what Massachusetts may do in awarding the final commercial casino license. Our planning process led us to engage the Innovation Group, which calculated the likely impact of four possible scenarios, ranging from the possibility of 2 Southeast Massachusetts casinos, the Tribal Casino in Taunton, and as well as the Brockton proposal, to just 1 in either location to none at all. Today, Newport Grand contributes approximately $27 million to the state from gaming. Newport Grand's survival and the state's revenue from it are clearly at risk, particularly with 2 casinos in southeastern Massachusetts. In that case, Newport Grand would likely go out of business. In all 4 of the innovation scenarios, however, a Tiverton casino near the Massachusetts border not only survives, but is projected to contribute a minimum of $47 million annually to state coffers, to a possible maximum state share of $70 million if it is the only casino in the region to come online. Even in the most challenging Massachusetts environment, it is projected to earn more money, nearly double for the state, than Newport Grand presently does. Its convenient highway access, proximity to a larger pool of prospective customers, and a full complement of gaming and entertainment amenities makes it a game changer and a potential competitive force in the marketplace. We feel strongly that going forward, the relationships we have with both of our host communities should be consistent. Therefore, this legislation ensures that both host communities, Lincoln and Tiverton, are provided with the same economic protections in the face of growing Massachusetts competition. It is important revenue for the state, and it's important to our continued viability as the producer of the state's 3rd largest source of revenue. For this reason, over the years, we have tried to plan for as many scenarios as possible as we have considered our strategy related to Massachusetts. I'm hoping this legislature, starting with this committee, will continue to help us in that endeavor. You've been partners with us nearly every major development we have undertaken to transform Twin River into the economic engine it is today, providing nearly 2,000 jobs and producing approximately $300 million in annual state revenue. I ask for your continued support by passing this legislation. As an aside, I would like to thank Chairman Felag for sensitizing us to the issue of the roundabout. Basically, on the very first day, we let him know we were thinking about this. He immediately made it clear to us that we needed to be sensitive to the fact that there had been a roundabout planned literally right outside our property for the last 10 years, which hadn't gotten constructed. And we heard time and time again in our meetings in town that if a casino was ever going to go there, this roundabout needed to be completed. And the legislation before you provides a provision which says we will not be able to open without it, nor would we want to. With that said, thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
The current revenue that the state projects from or receives from Newport, is that in the mid-20s now, or?
$27 million in the last fiscal year. And as I mentioned, the range of possibilities with the worst case is that goes to 47. In the best case, with no casinos in the southeast, it goes to 70 million.
So it would be an increase in the coffers to the state in terms of revenues. What is the projected timeline based on approval in November?
So if both the town and the state voters were to approve, we expect to be open by mid-2018. At that point, we would close Newport Grand and open the new facility. Lots of questions have been asked of what would happen to Newport Grand at that time. made it clear that if we don't have a buyer for the property at that point in time, we will scrape the building. Town of Newport isn't left. It's a rather large building, and without activity, it would be not something they want there for the longer term, so we're committed to scraping.
Some people in the town of Tiverton approached me, and they're concerned about the revenue being the minimum of $3 million up to $4 million. How would that be transferred to the town of Tiverton?
So the $3 million would come from state gaming tax, and the other $1 million comes from predominantly property tax, local property tax, as well as food and beverage tax. The proposal includes an 1,000 square foot casino, 1,000 slot machines or video lottery terminals, and
Do you know how that state disbursement is? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? Is it?
Yeah, you would look for at the end of the fiscal year, and if there was a shortfall.
No, how do they disperse the funds to the municipality?
I'm sorry, they disperse every other week.
Every other week. So the town would be receiving a check.
About every 12 days or something.
But if the gaming revenues don't meet $3 million, I think where Craig was going at the end of the fiscal year, true up to say, 1,000 or 750, whatever the number is, and it would be trued up at the end of the fiscal year.
Now, there are individuals that look at Connecticut and look at other areas, maybe Plainfield, that just opened up, and it looks like their projections are not what they thought they were going to be initially. How do you see this facility being something different that you see we're going to have an increase? Obviously, it's part of the card games and those types of things, but do you feel something to the effect that if we're able to get into that particular region, then we would have a, kind of like a host community type thing in that region?
So in terms of can we be competitive, we obviously wouldn't be making I think if you look at our track record in the promises that we've made when we've come before the legislature in the past, we tend to, under-promise and over-deliver. So when we were here and talking to you about table game revenue or table games in 2012, we suggested to you that we'd create 300 jobs, and we ended up. At that point, we had 900 employees. Today, we have close to 2,000. Our revenues from a table game perspective have far exceeded anyone's expectations in terms of what they would be. The projections that we presented to you on table games back then was done by the same company that has done these projections, and we're very, very comfortable that they're on the conservative side rather than on the aggressive side. We're willing to base a $75 million investment on these numbers.
Now, who's paying for this casino to be built and the hotel to be built? You're paying 100% of the cost.
We're not asking for the state to take any risk from the point in time where we closed on Newport Grand, through this campaign period all the way through the construction of this facility. The state will take no risk on this at all. The one thing that the state will do is guarantee a minimum. If the legislation passes, the state will guarantee a minimum payment of $3 million to the town, which is important to the town, as well as we will each contribute to provide the town with access to table game revenue.
Ian, my last question, can you bring us through the process as to how the building's going to look, its features and things of that nature? Was the town involved in that process?
Yes, the town was definitely involved in the process. Rather than go to the town and say, okay, here's the casino we want to build, you're going to love it. We basically said, look, we want to come and talk to you in a more intimate way, and we want to understand what you feel comfortable, what you don't feel comfortable with. So we spent the better part of the summer and the early part of the fall literally meeting with people. And this was an effort that I led. I participated in every one of those 40 meetings and then brought colleagues from the company with me nightly to sit there and hear feedback from people. So a lot of what was ultimately presented was based very specifically on what town residents told us. You know, what we heard loud and clear is if you want something to look at and be able to visualize what we want it to look like our town library. I think if you've seen pictures, very similar to the style of design of the town library. We didn't go there saying we want to build a hotel. What we heard loud and clear from residents of the town is if you're going to have a facility like this, we'd like you to have a hotel. So a lot of what the proposal includes, including the minimum, including participation in table games, which table games are really attracting a younger player and they're looking toward the future. All of that came from those conversations we had with folks.
Senator Lynch, Prada.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In terms of the projections that you discussed, and you, I think, kind of just started to touch on it when you talked about the town looking to add the hotel to the casino, it seems to me that a casino with a hotel becomes more of a destination than somebody going out, you know, for the night or, you know, for a couple of hours to play table games. So is part of your, the look toward the projections that you gave us, including the fact that you're trying to make it a destination spot for people to go and spend a weekend or, you know, spend overnight, restaurant, you know, those types of things?
So we are not, in the Northeast, we are not operators of destination casinos. Twin River is not a destination casino. It's and as you know, this legislature last session approved our ability to actually develop a hotel. And we look at that hotel as an amenity. It's something that our table game players were asking us for, not so much because they want to go to a spa or anything like that, which would be a traditional kind of destination casino, but some place to be able to spend the night if they wanted to. I think the same thing goes for Tiverton. We're not anticipating a major destination casino. As a matter of fact, if our shareholders saw us proposing a $500 million destination casino in Tiverton, they'd probably run us out of the company because we don't believe the region can support another one of those. And you know, what we do believe is that convenience gaming in competitive markets can be quite successful. If you look at our success competing against two of the world's largest casinos in Connecticut and now a smaller slot parlor in Plainville, we've demonstrated to ourselves and to our various stakeholders that we can be successful in competitive markets providing convenience product, which is what we propose for Tiverton.
Any other questions of any senator? Senator Raptakis.
I got a question on page 25 of the bill. It states the payouts for Lincoln, I believe it's $3 million. Have you met, since you've been operating in Lincoln, have you met that $3 million? And the question I have is, how many times have you not met the $3 million, and how many times has the state kicked in the difference? And I just want to make sure that whatever you're going to promise to Tiverton, it's there for the town of Tiverton. But also, if there's a shortfall, say if it's $2.5 million, you're short $500,000. Is the state liable for that $500,000, or would you split the difference?
We're not proposing that. We're splitting the difference. But let me answer your question on Lincoln. We've obviously this provision is not in the law as it relates to Lincoln as it stands today. Something that we felt there should be parity between both communities on a go-forward basis. So if Tiverton's going to have a minimum guarantee, then Lincoln should have it. We've never come close. I mean, Lincoln far exceeds that from a gaming revenue perspective, and things would have to get pretty bleak if it ever tripped. But in the interest of parity and harmonization, as you guys well know, this law has just been many things have been bolted on for many, many years. So we're trying to, in this piece of legislation, bring some parity. What we heard loud and clear from the residents of Tiverton is if you want us to host a facility like this, it needs to have a comparable impact on our community in the way that it does in Lincoln. So today, Twin River revenues from all sources represent about 10% of the town's budget. And if you were to take this minimum of $3 million and the $1 million of property taxes and other things, you get to $4 million. In the town of Tiverton's budget is around 38 or 39 million. So the minimum helped us get to a kind of a tipping point, if you will, of where the town's openness to hosting this facility was reached, and that's how we got there. In terms of, so we are participating in the revenue split on the table games. So we're each contributing 50 basis points for both Lincoln and Tiverton on a go-forward basis. But we felt that based on the risk we were taking in acquiring Newport Grand, based on the risks of this campaign that we're about to enter into, plus a $75 million investment, it was fair to assume that the state would make up the difference if there was one vis-a-vis Tiverton.
Is there a maximum on the difference? Like, say, if it's $3 million,
It goes up to $3 million.
right? But if it's only $1 million, would the state be liable for $2 million?
Yes, from its share.
Each year. Okay, thank you.
Senator Morgan.
Hi,
Senator Morgan. Yeah.
thank you, Chair. I had a question now. I know Twin Rivers, I don't know if they're grandfathered with the smoking or if they just didn't have to conform to the non-smoking. Will Tiverton also be a smoking facility?
Yes, in the law, it's special to the casinos, to pari-mutuel facilities, which are casinos. You're allowed to have smoking, but you also have to have non-smoking area.
But I know that's what helped. I think that's what kept Twin Rivers from
Correct.
getting all the pull
Right.
from that. So I'm.
And that
It's a differentiator for our product. The fact that we can offer, at Twin River, we have a non-smoking floor and a smoking floor. It clearly has helped us differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. Tiverton will be much the same. There'll be smoking.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Pichardo, you have a question?
Can you talk a little bit about the money or the formula that is used to allocate it for educating or for troubled gamblers and that form of education? Does that change or does that increase? And what is the projection on
So
that?
currently, the state's problem gambling program is undertaken by the state lottery and the Division of Revenue. We actually, between Newport Grand and Twin River, together we contribute about $100,000 for those programs, and then the state, kind of augments that as well across lottery products, not only video lottery and table games, but scratch tickets and other things. That program seems to work quite well for the state. From our perspective, we are promoting the fact that there's a problem gambling line, which the state sponsors and is operated by the United Way. We have the ability for our patrons to say, look, don't let me in here any longer for 6 months or a year or in perpetuity. And then we train all of our customer-facing employees in much the same way that we train them from a tips perspective or from a alcohol beverage perspective to identify people who are inebriated. We do the same thing for problem gamblers. So we are kind of the front end from a facility perspective at identifying and publicizing the fact that if you think you've got a problem, you need to get into this path. From the state's perspective, there's once they get into that path, there are two paths. One is a path where a person has insurance and they get help through insurance, and then the other path is where they don't have insurance and the state makes counseling available for them.
Senator Pichardo, continue.
On another matter, thank you for that information, and that's how much is contributed now.
That's how much
100,000.
we contribute. I think it's $90,000 from Twin River and $10,000 from Newport Grand.
On another, knowing that you're not a state entity, what is your policy or what is your plan in terms of utilizing or minority contractors, woman-owned and minority contractors in your facility and building?
So I'm not quite sure what the statistics are within our own building, to be honest with you.
That'll be great if you can follow up with me on that. Thank you.
Just to add to that, we are 80% union, and we deal with a lot of through the union labor force, and or provided workers that way also.
Good news. I'd like to, if you could follow up with me on that,
Absolutely.
on the previous question, that'd be great. Thank you.
One more. Can you follow up on, we talked about the current state of $27 million for Newport, and we're looking at the worst case scenario of 47 to 70 million gambling revenue for the state if we move to Tiverton. Can you expound a little bit more on what would the worst scenario be and what would contribute to that worst scenario and the best scenario?
So if there are two casinos in southeastern Massachusetts, the $27 million that the state generates from Newport Grand likely will go to zero. And that's whether we're operating the casino or, pick your favorite casino operator. It's just very difficult in competitive markets if it's not convenient to get there to attract players. And as I mentioned, spent a lot of time in Tiverton this past summer, and I live in Westerly, so I spent my evenings crossing Aquidneck Island. There are 21 red lights between our site in Tiverton and Newport Grand, and that's not a convenient situation. So if there are casinos in Brockton or Taunton, even if it's difficult to get into them because they got big parking garages and they're massive facilities, people will opt to do that rather than come to Newport. So that's the situation. That's the most aggressive competition we could face if we're in Tiverton and that happens. So there's two casinos in the southeast zone. It goes back to the conversation we had a little bit earlier on convenience gaming, and we believe we can compete, and that's the $47 million number. So a casino in Taunton, a casino in Brockton, and the best case is that there are no casinos get built in the southeastern zone. That's when the number goes to 7.
Now, those two particular casinos in Brockton and Taunton, are those still viable entities? Or obviously you'll be monitoring those very closely, but can you give us a little update of those particular facilities?
So as I mentioned earlier, we would not be investing $500 million in the southeastern zone right now in the face of having another $500 million competitor, as well as the possibility of us coming to Tiverton. So the Mass Gaming Commission is just coming to a point in time where they have to make a decision of whether they're going to award the casino in Brockton or let the casino in Taunton go. And it's a very complicated calculus that they're going through to try to make that decision. That decision gets made toward the end of the month of March. And then it'll go from there. There's been a lawsuit filed against the Tribal Casino in Taunton, which will likely put that license into question for a period of time. So there are path. I mean, this is very much up in the air. If the MGC decides not to award Brockton, it could be a long time before Taunton comes. If they award Brockton, it's questionable of whether Taunton ever gets built or not. It's a very complicated situation. What's not complicated to us is that if we get to Tiverton, we believe that we will succeed and generate those numbers that are in front of you.
Does Massachusetts have to undergo a voter approval process like Rhode Island?
They did originally, so Brockton residents in the town, in the city of Brockton, voted on whether they wanted a casino in their town, and it barely passed, actually, as did Taunton. There's no requirement for a statewide vote. Well, one comment on a question that you asked, Senator Goodwin. In 2012, when the question was presented on table games, there was a question in Lincoln at a statewide level, and then there was a separate question in the town of Lincoln at the municipal level. In 2014, when the voters went to the ballot box in Newport, there was one question in Newport, and there was not a separate municipal question. And it caused a lot of consternation. This legislation puts it back to two separate questions, which from our perspective is a communications challenge, because we got to make sure residents of Tiverton understand that they have to vote statewide and they have to vote locally. But we thought it was probably a better way to go, given we had already done that once in 2012, and there seemed to be some anxiety over it in 2014.
So that would be a Secretary of State issue or something in terms of that placement, such that they would understand that the first one is for statewide approval and the second is for the local approval.
Right, which is why I think the sub 84 you specifies that this question would be question 1, which gives us a little bit more, a little bit easier for us to educate people to say it's
right.
One here and one in town.
Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you very much. Next we have Tim Byrne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Tim Byrne. I have the unique opportunity to sit before you wearing a couple of hats today. I am the business manager for the Plumbers and Pipefitters Union. We represent about 1,200 plumbers, pipefitters, and refrigeration service technicians, which cover Rhode Island, all of Rhode Island, plus southeastern Mass, Cape Cod, and the islands. I'm also here as a representative of the Rhode Island Building Trades Council, which services approximately 8,000 tradesmen for the state of Rhode Island. So as a business manager, we've been neck deep in quite a few of these casino proposals. The one thing that we'd like to first put forth is that we certainly support this legislation and the construction of these casinos for obvious reasons, but we feel that it should be noted that throughout this whole process, now I say we've been neck deep in these casinos because we've been very involved with both the Brockton proposal as well as the Wampanoag proposal in Taunton, as well as the Plainville proposal and ultimate construction. But of everybody we've dealt with, it's certainly no doubt that the Twin River people have kept their word, certainly to the people of Tiverton and the state, as far as what they said they would do and as they do it. They have become terrific business partners. They have an economic engine for this state, which we certainly need, and we feel that this Tiverton Casino can only help promote that and move that forward. So on behalf of the Building Trades Council and the Plumbers and Pipefitters Union, we certainly support this, and we certainly are eager to become partners with Twin River in the construction of this casino. However, probably the most important hat that I wear before you is I am a lifelong resident of the town of Tiverton. Most of my time has been spent right down the road from where they want to build this project, and like Mr. Taylor says, they spent a lot of time and effort doing something that many developers don't do, and certainly in Tiverton over the last few years we've seen developers come in to put projects in and have pretty much brought it in front of the town and said, this is what we're going to give you. Well, what Twin River did was they held a lot of meetings. They held town meetings. They held small meetings. They said, "What do you want? What would you like?" And I want to touch on the hotel issue, because originally there was no hotel involved in this, but through these meetings, they heard the people of the town say, "We need a hotel. I'll give you an example. So my sister lives in Alabama. She comes up every couple of years to visit. When she comes to visit, there is no place for her to stay. She can't stay with me because her whole family comes up. It's too crowded. And there's no place for them to go unless they travel out to Somerset or if they travel to Newport. There's nothing in Tiverton. Now remember, Tiverton, up until like the mid-1700s, was part of Massachusetts. So we kind of feel like we're the annexed part of the state anyway. But we finally have somebody that listened to us, and they said, listen, we don't want a casino where you're going to run a weekday package. So come on in, we're going to comp you 6 rooms and spend all your money here. They want something where people can come in and say, we have visitors coming in from out of town. They're going to have a place to stay that's next to us. It's going to be comfortable. They're going to have a nice atmosphere to enjoy themselves. We also don't have anything in town to have any kind of facility that's going to be seated more than 100, 120 people. And that brings into question our youth organizations. I at one time was very involved in many of our youth organizations, and when it comes to the end of the year, we have our award banquets and we bring all the kids together. There's no place to put them in town. We have nothing. We used to at one time, years and years ago, it closed and left. So where are we going? Consequently, we're going out of town. We're going to Somerset or Fall River or, again, over to the islands to do it. So this presents a terrific opportunity for us in town to have a partner that is actually concerned about what we want and what was going to service us. Now, let's talk about the tax deal a little bit. Again, we are probably a very small step above what you would consider a bedroom community because we have really no industry in town. We've got a power plant in town, which is a terrific partner, but that's pretty much it. We don't have anything else. So every year, we sit back, we roll a dice, see how much our tax bill is going to go up. We have developers come in town. There's currently 3 proposals now to put some terrific developments in town, but they're all multifamily developments, which, again, as you know, puts a burden on the town services. And there's only one way to pay for those town services, is through your tax rolls. And if you have no industry feeding those tax rolls, then it falls on us as taxpayers and homeowners. And again, like I say, every year we roll a dice, and hopefully they didn't whack us too much, because to go in front of the committee, obviously, and get your taxes knocked down is very difficult. And we understand why we're paying so much. It's a terrific town. But we do need a partner. And again, Twin River has just been absolutely tremendous the way they've come to the people and said, what is it that you want? What do you like? What do you need? And they've answered every question. So I think this is going to be a very, very good proposal for the town of Tiverton. Certainly in my 56 years, I've never seen anything like this come in. I think this is going to add to the revenue of the town because remember, it's not a destination casino, but people are going to want to come here. And certainly all the other businesses in town will only benefit from it. So we certainly support it. As a taxpayer, I'm going to tell you that myself and my family, we certainly support it, and we welcome the tax relief, and we hope that certainly that this legislation passes.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Hearing none, thank you very much. Next, Mike Burke, representing the Tiverton Democratic Town Committee.
That I'm here without my professional hat on. I'm here as a private citizen tonight, and as the chair of the Tiverton Democrats, who, while we're divided on whether or not some of us like the idea of a casino, some don't, but we were very much united on the idea that our residents and the voters of the state should have an opportunity to decide whether or not a casino should go in Tiverton. I also want to echo some of the comments that Tim made in terms of I think the way that Mr. Taylor and his team have approached this with the town is a great case study in how any developer should come into any community where they want to make such a big impact on the community. They've been wonderful suitors with us. They've listened. They've incorporated ideas into their proposals. And they've also been very highly respectful of everyone in the process, including those who are adamantly opposed to having a casino at all in Tiverton. So I appreciate that, and I commend them for that. And finally, I think, again, just to underscore, 2 of the biggest components that are selling points to folks in Tiverton that I speak with are the need for that roundabout to be completed for this to work, and the $3 million guarantee of the gambling revenue for the town. Because as a host community, we feel it's very important that we have that guarantee to be able to be good hosts and good partners with them. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. The next witness, Senator Pagliarini.
And proposed legislation in front of you. While there are three senators from the town of Tiverton, While there are three senators from the town of Tiverton, I am a Tiverton resident, and I do support this casino. I think I will echo what the previous folks have said. Twin River has been tremendous with their presentations in large gatherings and small charrettes. The hotel is desperately needed in the town of Tiverton. As the gentleman said, not only is it when family comes, but during the summer, it is a high tourist destination area between Tiverton and Little Compton. And I would say that as economic development goes, one of the cottage industries that the town of Tiverton has grown is the weddings. And there is no place for a wedding party, bridal party, their guests to stay. We have multiple wedding facilities in the Tiverton Little Compton area, and they have to leave the state of Rhode Island or travel, I believe it's 17 miles to Newport to the nearest hotels. So the hotel will thrive, and it is a great addition in the town of Tiverton. As discussed, traffic safety, the roundabout is needed, and very glad to see it in the agreement. And the town council still is going to negotiate a host agreement with Twin Rivers, and subject to the outcome of that, I give this my full endorsement and ask that this committee also approve it. Thank you.
Any questions? Hearing none, the last witness, George Nee, the Rhode Island AFL-CIO.
AFL-CIO, we fully support this proposal. In addition to the comments I've made earlier about the construction jobs by Tim Byrne, we also have an opportunity to protect and expand, hopefully, the jobs that exist now at Newport Grand. There's about 200 people who are presently working there. Twin River has already committed that those individuals will have an opportunity to move up to the new casino in Tiverton if it's approved by the voters statewide and in Tiverton. And I think that's important. Obviously, we have had a relationship with Twin River over many, many years with a number of different unions that represent people up there. I can say two things about them. They are a tremendous corporate citizen. They really, and they keep their word. They've made commitments both to the people of the state of Rhode Island and to the people who work there. And it's just terrific to have someone who is as involved in the community as they are with charitable contributions. And it's there's a lot of good jobs at Twin River. People are making a decent living. They have good benefits. So it's a first-class company. In addition to that, we have an opportunity to both protect and expand the gambling revenue, which is very important to the state budget. So here we have an opportunity or a possibility with the company. No private sector investment, not asking for any tax breaks. They're actually asking for the opportunity to help the people of Rhode Island and help the state budget. So this is like a trifecta. You don't get a lot of these.
All right, then. Any questions? Hearing none, thank you very much for your testimony. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to hold Senate Bill 2081 Sub A to be brought back at a later date. So moved. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. At this time, there's no other further business, so a motion to adjourn. So moved. We have a motion. Do we have a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you very much.